Good morning. Today we're going to cover the 2013 AP Computer Science A FRQ. You are creating a multiplayer game called Token Pass that has the following rules. Just make sure that you read through this carefully. I'm going to go through it a little faster. Read through it, try to code it yourself, and then come back if you need help. So each player begins with a random token with at least one, but no more than 10. So therefore, we're going to create a random number between um, 1 and 10 inclusively, which are 10 numbers, correct? They are placed in a linear game board. There's one position on the game board for each player. And notice that they give you an example below where we have four players. They are in a linear board, so therefore it's going to be an array. And notice that each position on the board is number starting with 0, which will be next because this will be the actual index. Start with 0 all the way to 3, even though we have four players. The following rules apply for a player's turn. So here are the rules. The tokens are collected and removed from the game board at the player's position. So in this case, they randomly selected the second index number 2. Player number 2 has 6, so those will be collected. So we are going to collect all 6, and we are going to collect them, so therefore now he has 0. The tokens are distributed one at a time to each player, beginning with the next player in order of increasing. So therefore, we are going to distribute all 6, and player number 3 now gets 1, gets 11. If there's still tokens to distribute and the player has the highest position, the next token will be distributed to the player at position 0. So therefore, we are right, there's no one to the right, so we're going to come back over to this player, and we only have 5 left since we gave 1. So now this will have 4, and now we only have 4 left. The next one gets 1, so they'll have 3. Player number 1 will have 3 tokens, and now we only have 3 tokens to distribute. Player number 2 gets 1 more, so now he has 1. We have 2 tokens to distribute. Player number 3 gets 1 more, so now he has 12. And we have 1 token to distribute. And we're moving back to player number 0, so now he has 5. And we have nothing left. So therefore, we have 5, 3, 1, and 12. And that's how they have those 4 numbers. That's how they got the numbers. So now let's go to part A. So notice that they provide the code that's on the left hand side. There will always be instance variables, constructors, and methods are not shown. So you won't be able to run your code on the day of your exam. And notice that they are below, but you don't have to worry how they work because they will not be part of your exam. We're just going to be doing part A and part B. So let's talk about part A. Write the constructor for token pass class. So we're only going to write the constructor for part A. The parameter player count represents the number of players in the game. The constructor should create the board array to contain the player count elements and fill the array with random numbers between 1 and 10 inclusively. The constructor will also initialize the instance variable current player to a random number between 0 and player count minus 1, so that'll be the last index. So we have two instance variables. We have board, which is an array of integers, and we have current player, which is an integer, will be the player that we start with. So in this case, that'll be 2. So let's start with the first part. On the first part, we need to be able to initialize your array with random numbers between 1 and 10. They declare it, so we always need to be able to initialize your instance variable within your constructor. It's an array of integers. Remember that whenever you initialize your array of integers, if you know how many items you have, then you can just place it as a braces and include them in there. In this case, it's going to change every single time. So what is the size? So that's how many players we have, which is player count. Now it's going to initialize into all zeros. We want it to go from 1 to 10. So we are going to create a loop, a for loop, declare and initialize your variable, which is I equal to 0. While I is less than, we can do two things. We can go through each of the items. We can do board.length. But in this case, we know how big is the array, which is what the parameter that they brought in. So be player count, I plus plus. And now we're going to go through each item to your array, and so be board your index. And we are going to place it to a random number between 1 and 10 inclusively. So int math random. Now how many numbers we want is between 1 and 10. So we have 10 numbers, so it will be times 10. This will create random numbers between 0 and 9. So therefore we want to be able to increment it by 1. So now it's going to be between 1 and 10. And last, we need to go to initialize on instance variable current player to a random number, which will represent a random number in your array. So between 0 and 3. So in this case, we are going to do current player. We are going to create a random number, a random integer. How many numbers we need is going to be between 0 and the length of the array. So how many numbers we have in there. Therefore, we just we can do for that length, or in this case, once again, we can just use player count. And that will complete our constructor. So we initialize it to the length of the number of players. We went through each one. We place the numbers 1 through 10 on each of the players, how many tokens they have, and then we select a player at random, par B. On par B, we are going to write the distribute current players tokens, which is here. The tokens are collected and removed from the game board at the current player's position, so the way that it was described before. One of the things that you want to make sure that you read carefully is your precondition and postcondition, because a lot of times they're going to provide you with a little more information. So in this case, the current player has at least one token, correct? Because we created from 1 to 10 inclusively. So minimum of 1, maximum of 10. In the postcondition, the current player has not changed. So therefore, we cannot change the current player variable. So in this case, the first thing that we did is that we collected the number of tokens from that player. So let's go ahead and create a variable. It's going to be an integer. I'll call it tokens because that's what I'm collecting. And who are we collecting them from? We collect them from the second player. So that'll be from current player. And those are located within your board. So board current player. And once we collect them, we need to be able to place that number of tokens for that player to 0. So therefore, we're going to say board current player equal to 0. Then we are going to distribute to each one of them. Now, if we have 6 tokens, we need to distribute all 6. So therefore, we are going to use a for loop or a while loop. So in this case, you get to decide. I'm going to create a for loop because I know how many tokens I need to distribute. So be for int I equal to 0. While I is less than, how many tokens do I need to distribute? It'll be the number of tokens, I plus plus. And now I need to start distributing it to the next one. So therefore, I'm gonna increase the player to the next one. Now, one of the things that they say is that we cannot increase this. So I'll create a variable. I'll call it player, and so therefore I can now increase player without having to make changes to this. So we are going to go over to the next player. So in this case, will be to player number 3. So will be player plus plus. And we are going to increase the number of tokens that that player has by 1. Now, what is the player is on the board, and the index will be player, and we're going to increase it by 1. Now, once we go through the next token, since we have no players afterwards, we run into a problem because we don't have index number 4. So if we are done with the index, if there's no place underneath or afterwards, we need to come back to the first index, index 0. So we need to address the problem here. So therefore, we can use an if statement. If player is the last one, so which will be correct. If it's the last one, then that means that it's going to be, how can we determine the place? So if it will be the board length minus 1, correct? Then we are going to switch it back to the index 0, which will be player equal to 0. Else, we're going to increase it by 1. And let me just place my braces. Sometimes when I have only one statement, you'll see that I'm not using braces. But in this case, I just threw them in there. So therefore, if we reach the end of the array, then we're going to switch over to index 0. Otherwise, we're going to continue to increase. And we're going to, so we're increasing the player, and then we're going to increase the number of tokens they have by 1. When are we going to stop? Well, in this case, the tokens that we have is 6. So this for loop is just going to go through it 6 times. So we don't have to worry about keeping track of the tokens. If you use a while loop, you will. So just be careful. And I believe that's it. So let's go and run it and see what it gives us, any errors. And let's see if it matches our output. So notice on the output says check your solutions against the instructions. So let's see if it worked. We have 7. Sometimes if it gives me large numbers, 7, let me run it again, see if I get slightly. 7 again. 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's good. So therefore, I'm going to increase it. I'm going to make this a 0, and I'm going to increase each one by 1. So that's 5 becomes 6, 9 becomes 10. The third one will be 4, and this one gets 1. So that works. So I'm going to submit it. And perfect. So email me if you have any questions. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time.